This video could very well change your life in just a few minutes. So, I've been reading this book for the second time, The Courage to be Disliked. To be honest, this book was my favorite self-help psychology book that I read last year for the sole reason that it posed one idea. The idea that everything in your life is the way it is because you want it to be. I think that is such a brash and unapologetic challenge. It was like chewing 5 gum. It was like a breath of fresh air in a society so polluted with victim mentality. I will put a link to the book in the description, and I also invite you to share a favorite book of yours in the comments, as I'm always looking to add to my library. And while you're at it, hit the like button because it really helps my channel fight the algorithm. Now let's talk a little bit more about how important and powerful this idea is. So the overarching concept of the courage to be disliked is that we all have the power to change our lives and find happiness and fulfillment regardless of our wounds and past experiences. The argument that is posed throughout the book is that one's unhappiness is often self-imposed, stemming from a fear of being disliked by others and or the desire for approval. But what happens when we strip that down and toy with the idea that everything in your life, even the things that you don't like, are that way because you want them to be? You fail because you want to fail. You choose unhealthy relationships because you want to be in unhealthy relationships. What a pill to swallow. I just love how incredibly counterculture it is. I can already hear people screaming, that is victim blaming. And maybe it is, and maybe it's not. People who have escaped their prison of pain and have healed will have an easier time comprehending this challenge objectively. It is people who are still living in their wounds that will feel like this is salt in those wounds. But if you can manage to remain calm and take a step back, you will be able to see that this is obviously not a black and white statement. We are not dealing in absolutes. Of course, this does not apply to a child who is being beaten by their parents, for example. Those kids are not in that situation of abuse because they want to be. We are not denying the existence of victimhood. Two things can be true at once. The wounds that we sustain are not always our fault, but healing is our responsibility. I think there are a lot of people who need to hear this harsh truth. Their freedom hangs in the balance. And to be honest, I would say that I am more concerned about that than I am about offending the people who are simply not ready to understand just yet. Allow me to use myself as an example. There was a time in my life where I dated women who were engaging in lifestyle choices that I knew I did not want in my future marriage, whether it was working in the adult entertainment industry or heavy drinking and pharmaceutical use or just a overall conflict of value systems and ideals. I spent those years blaming those women for not acting right, trying to change them and justifying my own poor behaviors and lack of integrity on them. But the reality was, I was not ready for the conversation of marriage. I was not behaving in a way that a husband must, nor did I believe I was in a position where I felt like I could even provide financially for a family. So even though I claimed that I wanted to find a good woman and make her my wife, I was lying. The truth is, I wanted to be with women who I considered to not be marriage material because it helped me avoid marriage and the work and sacrifices required to change my own behaviors. I was in toxic relationships because I wanted to be in toxic relationships. The other thing about relationships with a lot of red flag issues is that all of those problems to constantly be solving and be distracted by can give you a sense of direction and purpose. People whose lives lack direction and who lack a sense of self-worth are like magnets for such unhealthy relationships.
I don't want peace. I want problems always.
Why? Because as long as they are solving all of these little problems and fighting all of these little fires, then they don't actually ever have to look at the big picture and where they really want to go and face the much harder challenge of the unknown. So I guess my challenge for you is to take inventory of your life and look at the things that you claim that you are unhappy with, and then apply that idea that you actually want those things to be that way. And then the question is why? What fear is it helping you avoid? What would your life look like if you were no longer connected to this thing? What questions and choices would you have to face then? As we all know, a familiar pain can be a lot more comfortable than the unknown. I look forward to sharing more ideas and growing alongside you. See you next time.